It's a very good morning to the Gelding Flemington races today, Gelding, and Turnbull Stakes Day, a very big race in the Spring Carnival.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. Yes, this is really, starting up the Spring Carnival. They call this day Moving Day. So horses that go well normally in the Turnbull, which I've got to say this year's a fairly open race, Professor. If they go well in the Turnbull, you can normally follow the place getters in this race, first, second and third, through the spring, and you might have a bit of luck, Professor. But I've got to admit I'm leaving it alone today, and we'll have a look at how a few horses go, and then maybe we may be on them in the weeks to come.
Well, Gelding, it's a big day of racing at Flemington. There's 9 races on the card, and group racing certainly back. There's the Turnbull, which is a Group 1. There's 4 Group 2s and a Group 3. So if you're a punter or a spectator of racing, you couldn't wish for anything better, could you?
Oh, it's a big day of racing, Professor, and a lot of these races are very open at the back of the program. And, with plenty of chances, Professor. So we've gone a bit earlier today.
We have. The track's rated a good 4, Gelding. Good to see that the track won't be affected by rain today, and the rail's out 9 metres for the entire circuit.
Nothing. Well, you've heard me talk on this show before, Professor. I regard Flemington as the best track in Australia, if not probably the Southern Hemisphere. And if it's not one of the best 5 tracks in the world, I'll go beat. So I'd bet on it every day. That's a beautiful track.
It is, Gelding. Now, the Turnbull Stakes has been run since 1865, but not as the Turnbull Stakes. A little bit of history, because we like going to history on That's Racing.
Yes.
Originally started out as the Royal Park Stakes.
Back in 1865.
65.
So remember, this race is almost as old as the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, and in 1895, it changed its name to the September Stakes, so it was obviously run in September in 1895. In 1898, it was changed to the October Stakes, so that's when it started to being run in October. Then it became the Melbourne Stakes in 1937, and finally the Turnbull Stakes in 1948. But it's only been a Group 1 race since 2006, Gelding.
Yes, so a good lead up to the Melbourne Cup, or weight for age horses. So yes, after Turnbull, who was what would you call them in those days, a chairman of the VRC. So, interesting times, Professor. A very good race.
Yeah, it started out its history in 1865 as a 2-mile race, or 3,200 metres. Didn't become a 2,000-metre race until 1972, Gelding.
Yes. When the era in the last 50 years when they've tried to give away staying races, Professor. You notice that? And now they're crying out for more of them.
Yeah, maybe they should have left this a staying race, Gelding.
Well, if you look at the history, and then maybe we would have bred some more stays, Professor.
Yeah. Well, talking about breeding, recent winners, Gelding, Incentivise won it last year.
Yes.
A horse that we both love, Very Elegant, won it the year before. Winx has won the race twice. Zipping, Mackay Diva, Vo Rogue, excellent horses, Gelding. And the first winner was The Sign, back in 1865.
The Sign, yes, Professor. It's been a good horses race, and that's why I say, like, you look at all those horses that are running in that kind of race that have won it, and see what they've gone on to do during those carnivals, Professor. So, very, very good horses race. So that's why I'll be very interested to see how Jewis goes today, Professor.
All right, Gelding. Well, what are your 2 best bets for this race meeting?
Well, I've gone a bit earlier, and in races that have smallish type of fields, Professor. A horse that we were on in the autumn, in race 2, number 7, Visani, to be ridden by Jamie Carr, and trained by Mick Price. This is a horse, Professor, that we followed, especially over in Melbourne, where it won twice at Sandown and has finished a second at Flemington and was just beaten by Tavali, which were in third in the Sir Rupert Clarke Group 1 the other day, Professor. So that's pretty good form for me, I think, in a listed race. When it runs second to a Group 1 winner last start, and it does win first up, Professor. So, it's had 4 first up starts for 2 wins, 1 run at the track for a second, and over the distance had 4 starts for 2 wins. So that'll do me, Professor Vinsari. A bit short, $2, but I thought, let's get these parlays off and running early, Professor, and hopefully with a nice win. My second pick is in race 5, horse 3, Giga Kick, trained by Clayton Douglas and to be ridden by Craig Williams. This horse has had 3 starts for 3 wins, Professor, owned by Jonathan Muntz. Clayton Douglas has done a fantastic job with this horse. Williams now knows it, so that'll do me, Professor. A horse that's had three starts and won every one of them, even though it's moving up in grade, Professor. How would you? We'd be happy with a horse that's won at Sale, Flemington, and Caulfield, wouldn't we? And there's already a Group 3 winner. So again, probably 2 shorties of the day, but pretty confident they'll help those parlays that we have, Professor. So my tips are race 2, number 7, Visani, and race 5, number 3, Giga Kick. And you like, Professor?
Yeah, Gelding, going a little bit earlier, well, a little bit later than you. You're in race 2. I like race 3, the Edward Manifold Stakes, a 3-year-old race for fillies over 1,600 metres. It's a Group 2 race, Gelding. And I like horse 2, Sumatra, coming out of barrier 9. It's had 6 starts for a win and 2 placings, so 17% win rate, 50% place rate. It was second at Caulfield on a heavy track in the 1,000 Guineas Prelude. It gave the favourite in this race, She's Lickety Split, about 8 lengths at the corner and ran it down. And not only did it run it down, it beat it home. So I think that's good form going into this race. Damien Oliver in the saddle, not on a favourite.
Well, did that theory of ours go during the week, Professor?
Gelding, you may laugh, but the Giraffe ran into a big hurdle with his tip to us during the week. Did not get up, and I said at the time, no, not interested.
Still trying to get out of that pocket it was put in. Eh?
Yeah, so Damien Oliver.
Fantastic jockey, Damien Oliver. We love him. Great jockey, but we'll let the listeners make up their own minds when they see him on a favourite and just look at where the record kind of sits, Professor. But then again, sometimes they might be favourite because he's on board.
Well, I'll tell you who is a favourite, Gelding, and that's the Blue Army, and especially with James Cummings.
Yes.
His win rate over his career is 16%. Over the last 50, Gelding, 32%. He is, every horse he saddles up over the last 50, 1/3 of them have won. That is an amazing stat.
He's on fire at the moment, but as we always say, Professor, and Godolphin and the Blue Army have such a range of horses. Their placement at the moment has just been spot on. Their horses, they cover all the different grades and that. They don't put them in a race that they don't think that they're competitive in. And, they're just flying at the moment. Like there was a race in Sydney the other day. They had 3 runners in. They got first, second and fourth. They're a bit stiff not to get all 3 placings. So I like your tip, Professor. I as we were talking off air, how does a horse that beat another one home in its last race start longer odds?
Well, yeah.
Where's the rationale for that, Professor?
I don't know where it is, Gelding, but I've taken advantage of it because I got $6.25 and $2.05 this morning. So
Beautiful.
Gelding, if it runs in the first three, it's better than
It's a
money
win.
back.
Well, no, it's a win.
Yeah, it's a win.
It's not money back, it's a win.
Yeah, it's a win.
So it's a fantastic each way bet. And this Edward Manifold Stakes, Professor, good ones to follow. Moving in up to the Oaks for the 3-year-old fillies, the under Manifold. Then there's a 2,000 metre race, I think, Derby Day, and then you follow in with the Oaks. So, horses that are performing well in this are normally the better 3-year-old staying mares, or fillies, I should say.
Yes, Gelding. All right, my second tip is in race 6, the Bart Cummings, Gelding.
Yes.
That Cummings name again.
Yes. Well, legendary Bart Cummings, 12 Melbourne Cups.
Exactly. So a Group 3, I think we've mentioned this before, Gelding. Why isn't the Bart Cummings a Group 1? Didn't he do enough? Well, maybe he wasn't a racing administrator, Gelding, because we reward the racing administrators with Group 1 prestige races, but Bart Cummings, who did so much training and won so many races, can only manage a Group 3.
Yes. Let's say, Professor, the Turnbull Stakes, now named after a chairman of the VRC, a Group 1. Mackay Diva, fantastic racehorse, won 3 Melbourne Cups, Group 1 race last week, 2 weeks. Bart Cummings, I've got a photo around here somewhere, Professor. I've got a photo with him standing there with 12 Melbourne Cups, and as you said, a Group 3. So,
well, if Bart Cummings can't crack a Group 1 race, Gelding, no trainer will.
Exactly. I think you're spot on there, Professor.
All right, Gelding.
Why couldn't the Lexus Bart Cummings or the TAB Turnbull Stakes? What are we now? The Melbourne Cup, the Lexus Melbourne Cup. We've been the Foster's Melbourne Cup. Wouldn't you link his name to the Melbourne Cup?
Well, you could, but certainly a Group 1 race on Melbourne Cup Day would be a good thing for him.
Well, there's only one Group 1 race on Melbourne Cup Day, Professor.
Yes, but maybe there should be 2. Or during the 4-day Flemington Carnival.
Yes. Yeah, well, he won the Derby enough times too. So he's won the sprint. He won the McKinnon Stakes. Now there's another McKinnon Stakes. There's another chairman of the VRC.
Oh, well, you've got to look after those people who ran the show, Gelding.
During the legendary Parlay here.
Gelding. All right. So my tip in the Bart Cummings is horse 5, Desert Icon, coming out of Barrier 1. 23 starts for 6 wins and 8 placings, so a 26% win rate, a 61% place rate. Gelding, it's won in the class. It won a Group 3 at its last start, the JRA Cup last week at Moonee Valley. It's won its last 2. It's won over 2,400 metres, so there's a lot of boxes that this one ticks. Also ticks the box that I could get $5.50 and $2.10, Gelding. So if it runs a place, it's another win.
A Chris Waller trained horse that's won its last 2 with Brett Peverill aboard. Last start winning a Group 3. When I look at this one, Professor, I see Group 3 against the name of the Bart Cummings, the Lexus Bart Cummings. So, yeah, I think another very, very shrewd bet. We're the favourite. There may be a few question marks over interpretation. So,
maybe just a few.
Yeah.
All right. So my 2 bets for the day: race 3, horse 2, Sumatra, and race 6, horse 5, Desert Icon. Now let's turn to Gelding, the Professor's Parlay, which was a very unsuccessful Professor's Parlay last week. And let me tell you, that's the first time that I think I can remember where we were clean bowled, 0 for 3.
Professor, you've got to look at it in the bigger picture. Now, okay, last week, we're out for a duck. We got the goose egg. But just remind me again the last 6 weeks.
I think either 3 or 4 of the Professor's parlays up, Gelding.
Yeah. The last 10?
Yeah, it'd be better than 50%.
Yeah, not bad. That's a very, very successful way of punting, Professor.
It is, Gelding. It's been very good to us, hasn't it?
It has. So, yes, I think some of our listeners too have hopped on board and had a little bit of success with it. So
maybe David from Mordialloc, who we haven't heard from for a while, but I think he struggles with getting up at 10 o'clock, Gelding. But let's face it, if you miss it, it's always on replay on YouTube. So
exactly, we're always there.
Yeah.
But David tends to want to party a little bit on Friday nights.
All right, Gelding. So let's look at the parlay. The agreed bet of the day with the horses for you and I, Gelding, is race 2, horse 7, Visionary, which is currently showing $1.85. Now, let's enter the giraffe world and look at the NRL Grand Final tomorrow night. And I'm going for the Parramatta Eels to cover the line. Parramatta plus 8.5.
Yep.
Why do you say would I do a thing like that? Well, Gelding, I think I went through the logic to it in the pre-match.
Yes, we had a good talk about it.
We did. Penrith lost 4 games for the season during the regular home and away. We can discredit the last game against the North Queensland Cowboys because Penrith rested every player that was a starter for them. They lost 1 game to Storm, so that takes it down to 2. And the Eels beat them both times they play them during the home and away. Now, I appreciate, Gelding, you made the point that what about the semi-final?
Yep.
Yes, concede that, but I think Parramatta aren't frightened by the Panthers. They know they've beaten them twice. And let's face it, they don't have to win, Gelding. All they've got to do is get within 8.5.
Yep, that's up. Professor, as I said, happy to go along with it. I think Penrith are a very professional side. Yes, the Eels are the side that have knocked them off this year. But I think in the last one and when it counts, I think they're going to go very well. But I do like the fact it's a grand final. Anything can happen. Nerves on the big stage. Eels have momentum at the moment. And as you said, they don't have to win. They've only got to get within a try and a half.
That's right, Gelding. So I might take this all up with the giraffe on tomorrow's Sports Fan Radio to see what he thinks about these bets. And let's parlay that into Maker Sivo from the Parramatta Eels to score a try at any time during the grand final. Why pick him? Well,
this is the one I like, the reasoning for this, Professor. I like it.
Played 15 games during the home and away season, scored 13 tries, Gelding.
Oh.
Almost won a game. So he will be on the end of a pass to get him across the try line, I feel certain.
Yes, and they'll be looking for him, no doubt.
And that's showing 8-1, Gelding. The juicy odds.
Beautiful, Professor. Nice juicy odds.
Very juicy odds indeed. So that's race 2, horse 7, Visionary into the Parramatta Eels plus 8.5 into Maker Sivo to score a try at any time during the game. And let's see where the cards lay at the end of the grand final. Hopefully, we'll be very happy with the Professor's parlay, Gelding.
Well, let's hope we get the first leg up, Professor, today in the horse leg, and then we can sit back and watch the watch the grand final tomorrow night with a little bit of an interest in it.
Yes, Gelding, and Sports Fan Radio tomorrow. All the usual suspects. The judge will be back after a week on the bench with illness. Cooter,
off a long run.
Delegan.
Will the judge be off a long run?
Oh, I think the judge will be off. Gelding, he's had 2 weeks to think about what he's going to talk about tomorrow. That's dangerous. We might not all get a word in.
Well, Giraffe talking about the NRL, and the judge off the long run. Wow. Wow. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, we will wait and see. All right, Gelding.
And of course, Professor, don't forget,
yes,
we'll be, even though we're on at 12 o'clock, it'll be an hour earlier.
Well, that's right. Don't forget to put your clocks ahead 1 hour overnight, and it'll be Australian Eastern Daylight Time when we go to air on Sports Fan Radio tomorrow.
Beautiful.
All right, Gelding. Well, until that's racing next Saturday, it's good luck.
And